I've returned to create a second video, maybe even a video per month in 2025. In this video, I will be discussing building a foundation of good habits by starting small and trusting that you will make progress throughout the year. It's January. Just barely, but it is still only the second month of the year. It's a good time to check in with ourselves about the resolutions, habits, and goals that we want for ourselves for the year to come. I love New Year's. A lot of people think it's an overrated holiday, but I think it's worth celebrating, making it another year here on Earth, and it's good to have a reminder to check in with ourselves and habits and such. And wow, what a crazy year it was. Crazy year. For me personally, I had a bunch of stuff hit the fan kind of all at once, or at least in the last couple months of the year. And this stuff splattered all over the walls and ceiling, and the fan keeps spinning. You know, you can't turn the fan off, and so I just had to clean the fan so I could keep on blowing. And it was only at the beginning of January this month,
last month it was,
when I took a step back to switch that fan to slow and start wiping up the walls. You might think you want to get all that stuff right away. You don't want to get it all dry and crusty and crusting up, but in my experience, it's a little easier to chip off in that state. Anyways, you understand my metaphor. I'm not talking about big poops. I'm talking about life stuff. Sometimes you gotta get a little time and space between you and your problems in order to come back and handle them effectively. Jobs, family, relationships, my personal inner world. Well, it's all sort of connected, isn't it?
Isn't it?
I think a lot about the things I want to do in life, which at the moment I believe to be writing in one form or another. And I think a lot about how I don't do those things, mainly writing. In the last video, we talked about foisting artificial time pressure upon your creative pursuits, and how when you build all that up in your head, you're raising the stakes so high that you cannot possibly enjoy that process. And so I decided to step back from even thinking about trying to make stuff because it wasn't getting done anyway, and priorities shifted for me. It was too frustrating, and I wanted to get some momentum going in other areas of my life. And now I'm like back. And I'm thinking about the flip side of that, that as bad as this illusory pressure is for the process, isn't it just as bad not to start? Because now that I'm returning to a normal baseline of like life state, that's the issue I'm facing, which is the same issue we were facing when we were putting all this pressure on ourselves in the first place. And in conducting this new year introspection, it's easy to spin your wheels mulling over the question, what do I want to do with my life? But that's a stupid question because I can't crack it. It's too big to be useful, and it presents a false premise. You don't do something with your life, you're always doing life. You don't do one thing with your life, you're just always doing life and living life and doing stuff. Priorities shift as life changes. So a much more useful question, in my opinion, is how do I want to live my life? So I was talking to my mom on the phone as I'm dealing with my stuff splatter. I don't like to worry my parents with my problems, but my mom said a ton of really wise shit over the holidays. She's like, I'm gonna say it. I want you to call more. So I'm feeling low, and I'm like, all right, Ma, you asked for it, here we go. And I even expressed this idea that I don't wanna give them anything to worry about, and she's like, I'm in a good place, I can take it. So anyways, I'm like, wow, Ma, boo-hoo, this and that. I feel like I'm at my emotional capacity right now, and on top of just getting by, there's also all this other stuff I wanna do. My parents just moved to a rural area. My mom's a nature lover, and she's like, you gotta land, kid. Look at the trees. It's winter time, we're in hibernation mode. The trees aren't pushing out fresh leaves and flowers. Right now, they're working on their roots. They're going deeper, growing stronger to survive the howling winter winds and summer storms to come. Not her exact words, but holy shit, I thought that was wise as hell, and a great analogy for something that I bet a lot of people experience around the new year. Got a little frog in the throat situation going on right now, so bear with me. It's a time to go back to your roots and focus on the basics and build up a good foundation for yourself by starting slow and small so that you actually get in the habit of doing whatever it is you're trying to do, rather than biting off more than you can chew and spitting it out because you never had a chance anyway and it's too hard and I think we all have a resistance to this idea of baby steps, like it's gotta be 100% commitment, all in or nothing, and that just isn't realistic, at least probably not for me. They say when you hit your mid-20s, you're either getting married and having kids or training for a marathon. So I took that literally.
I'm pregnant.
Pregnant with the deep conviction that I will run 26 miles in a row and then throw a little extra on the end there just for fun. I used to be a runner and I've come to enjoy staying active, but the marathon is really more about following through on a commitment to myself. Part of my whole dealio with like being a sad guy at the end of the year is that I wanted to earn some self-respect and self-confidence.
I earn it.
And show some self-love by actually doing the shit I said I was gonna do, which is something we struggle with relative to the creatosphere. So for whatever reason, we got the creaty hang-ups, and even though that's what matters most to us, we gotta go about restoring the faith in our own word some other way. I've been running like a mile or two to 3 days per week since I moved here over the summer, and I was applying this principle that I don't remember if I talked about last time, but it's something that I've had great success with in starting habits, at least like once or twice. And I credit it to this YouTube creator Struthless, who I know I spoke about in the last one. And he actually just made a video that's sort of similar to this, but much more succinct and practicable. So I'll link to that in the description. For these types of videos, which is the only type I've got at the moment, I'll leave some inspiring stuff that I've been enjoying in the description, and just stuff that's been helping me in case you can relate. So anything that I mention in here will also be down there, plus more. But sorry, I didn't mean to string you along there. So here it is. When starting a new habit, start so small that it's easy. Not just achievable, easy. You have to be like, oh yeah, like I could do that, that's so easy. you know how easy works. Stuff is easy. So I didn't have any like consistent exercise routine at the time, but I used to run. So I was like, okay, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2 of those days I'll try and get out there and just do like a mile and just get moving, which is good for your mental health too, and being outside and blah, blah, blah. Also, cool, fun way to get to know the neighborhood. So even with my little dynamic stretching warm up at the beginning, I'm back in like 15 minutes. 15 minutes, that's nothing. That's nothing. I lose 15 minutes to the phone scroll warp vortex every day without even noticing. And it was summertime, so it was nice out. By the end of summer, I was going Monday, Wednesday, and Friday most weeks. Bam, habit formed.
You did it.
Because I started small and easy. And the key, I think, is just wedging it into your routine, into your brain's time schedule. And that's sort of like a back door, or maybe front door, maybe, to identifying with it. I don't just go for a run sometimes, now I am a runner. Once you wedge it in there just a little bit, it's easier to gradually expand. Little by little. Of course, with exercise, you gotta get dressed before and shower after, but I was probably gonna do that anyways. So once I found that technique that actually worked for me, I was like, I wonder if I can actually scale this up. One day I randomly went for a longer run and it felt fine. And then I found out about this marathon nearby in April, and it was December, which some folks would say isn't quite enough time to train. So naturally, I didn't get serious about training until January. But I'm taking it easy. I'm listening to my body. I got new insole thingies when I started to feel pain on a longer run. And of course, I walk the rest of it because I'm not training for a time here. I just want to be able to finish. So I can't be taking myself out in January.
February.
The marathon is something I've sort of always wanted to do, and so if not now, when? Going forward, am I gonna be in better shape? Like maybe, I certainly hope so, given my newly unlocked powers of habit formation. But you get my point. So I got this time-bound quest running on the side now, and then the new year hits, and I cut out a handful of common vices just for the month of January, just a little reset, find my baseline mental state, and stop avoiding my sad feelings and actually work through them. That was rough, but it turns out if you make space for your feelings and actually feel them, you can get to the other side. I had to treat it like any other bodily function that you have to attend to roughly once per day, which I did by emotionally discharging into my journal.
I could journal, I should journal.
And then occasionally watching a sad movie some days so I could tip over the edge and actually shed a tear. Crying is hard sometimes, but
Don't cry.
Wow. Friggin' awesome. I physically and emotionally felt way better after crying. Maybe I'm late to the party on this one, but I don't know. My brother was telling me that some of the sadness chemicals are literally physically washed out of your system via tears. And I didn't fact check that, but that is how it felt. Anyways, here we are now, feeling less crazy because we cut out most of the drinking, smoking, etc., and we dealt with the sad feelings. And let me tell you, that process was actually so rewarding in a really unexpected way. I genuinely felt proud of myself for leaning into those feelings, even though I knew it would suck. For what is bravery but willingness to feel pain for a good reason? So that process was great. It built up some feelings of self-love and respect and confidence, and it has sort of had this snowball effect that once you start cleaning up your act, you start to notice all the other little things that don't quite meet your standards anymore. Anyways, this is the priorities section, so we should talk about priorities. Returning to this idea of how we want to live our lives versus like what we want to do with our life, I found it more helpful to create a list of priorities rather than a list of goals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on any given day. These are the things that are important to me, and if I have the time and energy to do something, this is what I'm gonna do in this order. Number 1 for me is unfuck my sleep schedule. I get up really early some days for work, and my weekend was Sunday and Monday, so if there was something going on like a Friday night, I could not bring myself to sit out. I should have, but I just didn't do it. This year it's dry January.
No drink?
So giving me a little buffer time to get the sleep schedule back in order without a ton of fun stuff going on. A bunch of my friends are doing it too, so that's helpful. I was able to switch my schedule so that now I work Sundays instead of Saturdays. So now Saturday night is a work night instead of Friday. But I think that'll work a little better for me in terms of resisting temptation. We're working this problem from all angles. Priority number 2, running. If I'm doing anything after work, I'm going for a run, as per my new list of priorities. So I've gradually worked it up to 5 days of running per week instead of 2. But guys, it's been cold as hell, like actually below freezing. One day I had to work later than usual, so I get home and it's dark and it's cold and I flop on my bed and I'm like, am I really going out there today? Are we really gonna go back outside? And the strangest thing happened. The answer came back, yes. I was finally experiencing this positive momentum, like I wanted to keep the streak. I knew I'd feel worse about not running than I would by just being out in the cold and actually running. You can fuck up your life like knocking down dominoes, but it sort of works in reverse as well, I'm finding. As you gather your shit together, more shit is drawn together. Priority 3 is journaling, because when I'm in a consistent journaling groove, it makes me feel good. And priority 4 is this, working on a video for this project, YouTube. I was thinking I would do 1 per month, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I don't really have any clear goals for this right now, and it's also, that would be the highest output I've ever had. So like, let's go for it. My phone just died, so if the frame is slightly different, that is why. So like I was saying earlier, everyone, myself included, has resistance to this idea of like slow and steady progress. It's like if I can't commit to hitting the gym 3 or 5 days a week for an hour a day, I'm not even gonna look at a dumbbell. That's dumb, brah. That's stupid. Why do we think this way? So most days I never made it to priority number 4 because of course there's lots of other things to do in a day. But then one day I did have time for it. And then another day I had time for it and I was just finding other things to do. But 2025 is the year of being honest with ourselves. It was time to finally crack this nut. How am I gonna get back in the writing game? So I already cracked the code of starting a habit so small that it's easy in order to just wedge it into your schedule, wedge it into your identity as something you do consistently, someone you are, the type of person you are. But I still had hangups about writing. So for this one, I needed some help. And what was I gifted this holiday season? Write for Life by Julia Cameron. Check it out. I assume you can see it. She wrote The Artist's Way, which maybe I mentioned last time. It's like a 12-week recovery program for blocked artists that takes a rather spiritual / philosophical approach to the creation process, but accompanied with actionable exercises. And so that combo quite suited my sensibilities. And then this one's sort of like a spin-off slash sequel about writing specifically 6 weeks. And writing is part of the process for a lot of different stuff. And we do want to make stuff. So I would highly recommend these books. They helped me start a journaling practice and made me feel less crazy about being blocked, as she calls it, because it turns out that is quite a common problem. And that's sort of why I have the courage to get on here and talk about like wanting to do something fun and just not doing it, and then being upset at yourself for not doing it, because that sounds stupid on the surface, but if you've experienced it, you know how frustrating that can be. But I'll tell you the advice that really did it for me in here. 2 to 3 pages a day. She recommended 2 if you're writing prose, or 3 if you're writing a screenplay or something like that with more spacing. But wow, start so small that's easy. I knew that. I already knew that. Why didn't I apply that sooner? I feel like sometimes you need someone with perceived authority to tell you things you already know so you feel validated in acting on them. You know what I'm saying? Actually, my friend recently suggested that the reason we hate the baby steps is because, like, if it was actually easy to do, then you have to face the fact that you were not doing that shit all along when you could have easily been doing it, and that's just like hard to swallow. So anyway, I read the first chapter and then I started, and the first day of my writing, I wrote like 6 pages of this script, which I just write out in paragraphs, like you know, loosely about what I want to say. Double spaced, of course, but she explicitly says not to go overboard. You want this to be sustainable. And I find that if you have more ideas about what you want to write, that makes it way, way easier to sit down and start writing the next day. You're not just like staring at the blank page. So you don't have to feel like you got to squeeze every drop out of your mind melon, because you just trust the process, you know, trust that there will always be water in the well, so to speak. And here we are. At the time I wrote this, I haven't decided if I'm gonna write 2 or 3 pages per day, but it's like, I think 2 is an amount I can consistently hit, and it's not cheating that they're double spaced. Because the worst thing you could do is get all up in your head, but well, it's not enough, that's not enough, 2 pages a day, it's nothing, you know, other people are fucking grinding, what's even the point? Faulty logic. 2 pages a day is 60 pages a month. 60 pages a month? I haven't written 60 pages of anything. So yeah, that might be all I have to say for this one. Anybody know where to find free music online for these videos? Quote, "The first page and a half are easy, the second page and a half more difficult. The trick here is to write a set number of pages on your project every day. I say 3 if you're writing a play or a movie, 2 if you're writing prose, which is more dense. Setting the bar low at 3 pages or 2 guarantees that you will be able to accomplish it. As your daily pages mount up, so will your self-esteem. Restless? Feeling you could do more? Resist the temptation. Slow and steady wins the day. Use the mantra, easy does it, reminding yourself that it means easy accomplishes it. Your slow pace is actually fast. 90 pages of a movie in a month, 60 pages of prose. Write daily and feel the thrill of accomplishment. Take pride in your progress." All right, well, you just go on, take her easy now.